Hello, beautiful people. It's a girl Jeannie and it's Jeannie's Signatures. So today I'll be making this beautiful gown. It's an asymmetric neckline with an underbust basque that you tie around your waist area to give it that beautiful effect, like an underbust corset. Yeah. So, and this is a gathers gown. So if this is what you're interested in on how I achieved this beautiful piece, you can see the neckline, it's neat. And if this is what you're interested in, like I said, please kindly watch till the end. And as you're watching, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and don't forget to share. So this is the back view. You can see that it's a corset because it has loops at the back where it was tied on it. So I'm going to be showing you the detailed tutorial on how I cut this and how I sew everything. So if you're interested, sit back, relax, and let's go ahead. So now I've ruled out my lines, as you can see. So if you don't know how to cut a bust here, just go ahead. I have tons of tutorial on the channel already to that effect, but I'll just be doing like a caricature of how it's going to be. So all those lines there, you have the bust point on the bust, waist line, and then the chest line. So right there on the chest line, I'm dividing my bust span measurement on nipple to nipple into 2, and then I'll be rolling that out on a straight line. You mark that from the chest line, and then you take it all the way to the waist area like so. So you're going to be connecting it in a straight line like that. So in order to get our bust, under bust, that on that I would say on the side I just mark 1.5 inches, and on the middle part I marked half an inch from the under bust down to the waistline. That is where I marked my under bust, that measurement, as you can see. So on the bust point part, I came down by half an inch, and as you can see, I didn't curve this because I'm not going to be padding this. There's no need to pad this. It's just going to be there so that when you wear your bra or whatever, your breast is going to be having where it will be accommodated very well. So now I came to the armhole line, and then I divided that into 2. I got the midpoint, and then I connected to the bust span measurement I will have in the middle like so. So I'll just use my hand to do all that very well so that it will not be pointed. Now I'm going to be getting my armhole up that so that it will give it a bit of tightening right there. So I came down by 1 inch from my armhole, and then I went up by half an inch from my bust point, and then that is what I'm connecting like so. So you can see we already have our cup already. So now, in order not to run into shortage, that 1 inch that I came down with, I had to go out for that so that it will make up when I'm sewing. So now that's what I just did right there. So now I'll just get my bust divided by 4, and then I'll mark that on the chest line, add back the darts that I used for tightening around that area, and then add my sewing allowances. So you know all these measurements that have 0.5 or 0.5, so you just have to be careful when you're taking your measurements. You don't want to run into problem. So you just come to your waist measurement as well, you divide by 4, and then you add back the 2 inches you used as your dart, and then you add your sewing allowances as well. So I used 1.5 on one side and half an inch on the other side. That's why it's 2 inches. So now I'll just basically connect this together like so. So you can see, and then I'll cover the armhole for that. Don't worry, by the time you will sew all this together, the armhole is going to come back to where it originally is supposed to be. So we're basically through with the front piece, and then I'll be cutting this out. So this paper was folded, that's why it's folding as I'm doing it like this. But just watch what I'm doing, and then you're going to be getting everything perfectly well. So for this style, you can't draft directly. Not that you can't draft draft directly on your fabric, you can. But if you draft on your fabric directly, you're going to be wasting a whole lot of fabric. So I would advise that you draft first on this paper, because so that before you transfer to your fabric, you won't waste too much fabric. So I would advise you draft on paper before transferring to your fabric. So this is what we have. I will just notch the underbust so that when I'm sewing, everything is going to be sitting perfectly well. Now I'm relabeling all this so that it will be easy when I want to do everything. So this is the middle piece, as you can see, and these are the side pieces respectively. So I'm just going to be using a tape to hold that together so that I'll be able to show you how I'm going to be adjusting the neckline, or how we got that asymmetric neckline for the front. So I've gone ahead to tape that, so I'm showing you how the neckline. So I was just trying to check it out again before going ahead to do the needful. So right here on the left hand side, because that's where the asymmetric neckline fell to. So from my sewing allowance, because I've already added sewing allowance on my pattern, so I need to consider that first. So my sewing allowance, I already have it. So from my sewing allowance, I'll come in by 3.5 inches. You can go in by 3, you can go in by 2, whatever how you want it to be, but I came in by 3.5 inches. And then on the neckline area, I went in by 1 inch, but I later on went in by half an inch further. But for now, I went in by 1 inch, and then I'll just try to use my hand to carve out that design that we have on the shoulder, on the left hand side of the shoulder, as you saw on the thumbnail. So that is basically what I'm trying to make here. You just have to bring in your creativity here. There's nothing so difficult about it. Just your creative nature in you will just come out to play right here. So if you feel you're comfortable with the way you're drawing the arc, you can go ahead and be okay with it. But I was just trying to get it as much as I could so that it will come out the way it is on the thumbnail. So that's basically what I was trying to do right there. So as at this point, I felt it was okay, and so I measured to get what I have there, and I discovered that it was 1.5 inches all in all. So I'm going to come to this right hand side, and I'll be marking the same 1.5 inches right here, because it has to rhyme. The both sides has to be on the same pedal. So now I'll come to the middle part. Remember that I'd already done 3x3 for my neckline, so I just went up by 3 to know where my neckline is going to get to. So I did, all in all, I did 5.5 or 6 inches, and then I connected it like so to meet the 3 inches I came in with from the other side. I believe you understand what I'm trying to do here. So when you look at it, you see that you're already getting the shape of the neckline. So this is what we have. So I'm just basically going to be cutting this out. Just watch the way I'll be cutting this out. So this place is going to be serving as kind of a yoke for the left side of the sleeve, and then I'll cut out the neckline like so. So I'll set that aside so you can see it, and then I'll cut out the neckline like so. And so this is what we have. So if you feel you didn't really understand that part, you can just go ahead, rewind, and then you'll watch again so that you understand what I did there. So now remember, at the point where you removed that thing, just make sure you give it a notch so that when you are sewing, you're going to be knowing where you are going to be attaching that yoke. Please, it's very, very important. Make sure you give it a notch. Even when you've cut it on your fabric, ensure that you give it a notch. It's going to be very easy for you when you're sewing it so that you know where you're going to place it very well. So we are basically through with the front piece. Now let me go ahead to cut the back piece. So for the back piece, we're pretty much going to be doing the same thing. The neck width was 3 inches. That's what I used initially before I extended it. And then I'll get the shoulder measurement divided by 2. You come down for your armhole, and then you mark, just to have a straight line, you mark the same thing from your shoulder measurement, and then you rule out like so. Yes. So the next thing to do is to get my shoulder slope and then slope my shoulder, and then I'll add half an inch for joining of the shoulder. Sorry, the paper was just rolling and rolling, so that's why it's like that. So for the neck depth, I just made use of 1.5 inches. So now I'm going to be dividing my bust into 2, and then mark it like that, and then add my sewing allowances, and then connect for my armhole. And then I'll come to the waist area. You divide your waist by 4, and then you add 1 inch for that, and then you add your sewing allowances as well. And then I'll be connecting that to my chest area, and then I'll be getting the that for the back. I divided the bust span measurement into 2. That was what I marked on the chest line and on the waistline. Then I'll be ruling out to connect it like so, and then I'll be taking half inch on both sides for the dart, and then I came down by 1 inch from the chest line, and then I slanted my dart lines like so. So this is just like drafting a basic bodice. So on the zipper area, I'll just come in by half an inch and then slant it all the way in order to avoid bulginess of the zipper at the back. So we're basically through with the back piece, but now let me come over to the neck area, because this neck must align with the neckline of the front, because if not, that means you did not do anything right. So on the shoulder area, remember that I used 1.5 inches, like I extended the neckline by 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to be checking out to ascertain what I have on the shoulder areas for the front before adjusting whatever I need to adjust for the back piece, because everything has to align. So right there from the armhole area, I marked whatever I had on my shoulder for the front piece, which was 3 inches. So indirectly, as at the time I checked what it was, I saw that it was still 1.5 inches. I add left right there, so you can see I'll just cancel out the first one and then make do with the second neckline. That's just it for the back piece. So now I'll just go ahead and then cut this out. I believe you understand what I did there. So I'll just cut this out like so. So if you've watched up to this level and you have not yet subscribed, you have not yet commented, you have not yet liked, Abba, what did this girl do to you? Please kindly watch till the end, because I'm going to be showing you the sewing process as well. So I went up by half an inch on the waist area and slanted it into that like so. All this is in a bit to avoid bulginess of the zipper. So we have our back pieces. The back pieces will be cut on fold because it has to be in 2 pieces, and then these other ones will be cut out independently, but I'll be cutting everything and it's going to be having a lining as well. So now we're going over to the bust corset. So for the underbust corset, it's going to be starting right from under the bust. So my client's underbust shoulders for underbust was 13 inches, so that is what I have. And then I marked our waist half length, which was 16 inches, and then the full length of the corset I made it 23 inches respectively. So those are the lines you can see. You can see the waist and then the hip. Then the first line on the paper is automatically the underbust. So now we're getting my client's underbust round measurement. You divide by 4 and then just add half an inch, because you don't really need much of an allowance for this. You don't need 1 inch or 2 inches, that would be too much. So I would advise you just make use of half an inch for joining. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I really don't know where I went as at this point, sorry. I went off camera. I think my baby was disturbing. Sorry about that. So just divide your underbust measurement by 4. You mark that and then you add half an inch. But I think I added 1 inch, but I later trimmed that out. So for the waist, you divide your waist by 4 and then you mark it and then you add your sewing allowance as well. And then you'll be going over to the last line, which is the hip line, and then you divide your hip by 4 and then you add your sewing allowance as well. So those are the things that I did right here for the underbust. And then you're going to be connecting all the lines together. So this is what we have as at now. So in order to get that curvy part on the basque, I'm going to be going up by 3 inches. You can go up by 4 inches, and then you're going to be drawing like an arc inwards like so to give it that shape on the waist area. Just go up by 3 or 4 inches and then you do that. So on the waist area, I'll just come down by 1.5 inches. You can come down by 2 inches or more, deeper, depending on how you would want the underbust area, like the underbust to sit out. But this is what I did and it came out nice. So I'll just basically cut this out. Now I want you to take note that this is for the front, so I'll be cutting out for the back. But for the back, I don't know, my camera was not capturing it, so at the end of the day it didn't really show the way I cut it, but I'll be explaining how that's done. So this is the front, so and this should be cut on fold, because the middle part is not supposed to be in pieces, it's supposed to be a single piece. So now I've gone ahead to cut out the back. So for the back, just make sure that the sides of the front aligns with the back, and then for the place where we're going to be putting the eyelets, just make sure you remove your zipper allowance. There's no zipper allowance, and then you remove 2 or 3 inches from the back and then slant it. So that's just it. You can leave it straight if you want it like that. So I've gone ahead to cut out everything on my fabric, as you can see, and I added some allowances all around it where I'll be joining them. So add all the allowances respectively. I've cut it out with the lining, so you can see me giving that place a notch where I'll be attaching the yoke for the front, as you can see. So the yoke is also 2, because I have a lining for that. I'll be using it to turn it. So I've gone ahead to do that. So this is like the main fabric. So I've already gone ahead. I attached the yoke to the main fabric, and then we have the lining as well. So now I want to cut out the collar that we have in the front. So you're just going to be placing the front piece on your fabric like this, the plain fabric you want to make use of. Just trace out the neckline like this, and then I'll be making use of 2 inches for the width of the collar. So that is what I'm marking right there, and then I'll connect the lines, and at this point I'll just slant it a little bit like so. So this is what I have. So I'll cut this out, but when cutting, make sure that you add half an inch all the way around it, because you know you're going to be turning this, because this has to be in 2 pieces. You cut out another one and then you use it to turn the other one. So that's why we're adding the sewing allowance. So I'll place like this and then cut out like so again. So this is what we have. So you can see the way the collar is looking already. So you're going to be, don't sew the upper part, or sew the two sides and then the lower part, and then you're going to be turning it out. So I've gone ahead to do that, and I've given it a very good press, and this is what we have. So I'll be showing you how you're going to be attaching it neatly on the neckline. So on the neckline, make sure that you leave half an inch up from the first place you're supposed to attach it. Leave half an inch because you'll be joining your shoulders at that point, so you don't want this to go into it. And then the yoke you have in the front, push it down like that, and then you come in with your lining. You must have joined your lining separately by now and ironed it out. So I'm going to be using pins to hold down the neckline all through like that, and then I will take it to the sewing machine and then run half an inch on the neckline till the end, and then give it a notch and then top stitch so that the lining will sit on the reverse side of the fabric, and then close the sides like so. So let me quickly do that and I'll be right back. So these are the back pieces which I've already done. So let me do the front piece and then I'll be back. So I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what we have. So you can see that everything is embedded inside. There's no stitches showing anywhere, so it's looking very neat. So now I'll just bring in my back pieces. I'll go and run a temporary stitch for my zipper allowance, and then come here to join the shoulders by half an inch. We all know how to join our shoulders neatly. Just flip over one lining and then close it out, and then I'll be back to show you. So this is what we have. I've gone ahead to do that. I've closed out, and then I'll be reintroducing the lower part that will make up for the full length of the gown. So in order to determine this, just deduct your full length from your half length. Whatever you have is going to be making up for the gathers, which I did. I already have a tutorial on how to do gathers and all that, so that's why I basically fast forward that point. So now I've joined it to the waistline, and this is what we have. So our gown is already coming out looking beautiful. So you can see the way it is. It's sitting out perfectly, looking good and all. So now the next thing, I've fixed my sleeves as well, because my client wanted a shorter sleeve for one side and a longer sleeve for one side. So you can see it. That was what my client wanted. She didn't want one side off. No, she wanted a long sleeve for one side and a shorter part for one side. So now we're going over to the basque part. You can see I've already gone ahead to iron my stay on the main fabric, as you can see, both for the back and then the front. So I'm going to go ahead and join this by the sides by half inch, and then I'm going to be creating my boning channels. Sorry, I'm creating the boning channels here. I'm not supposed to create it on the right side of the fabric. I'm supposed to create it on the wrong side of the fabric. So I'll still go over to do this on the wrong side of the fabric. I'll go over to do this on the wrong side of the fabric, but I just wanted you to like see what I'm doing first very well, because if I should do it on the reverse side, because of the stay, you may not see it very well, and I didn't have a colored chalk, a darker colored chalk to highlight the lines. So that's why I was just trying to do it right here, but I'm going to be pretty much repeating exactly what I have here on the reverse side of the fabric. So this should be done on the reverse side of the fabric. Please take note of that. So I'm just trying to measure it so that everything is going to be aligned properly. So now that's what I was just trying to explain right there. So I've gone ahead to do this off camera. I did everything. So these are the bones I will be using to create the channels. and I did that, and this is how it came out to be. And at the end of the day, I went ahead to beat the basque area, and it came out looking lovely and beautiful. So if you enjoyed watching this tutorial, kindly leave beautiful comments, kindly like, kindly share, and kindly give it a thumbs up. And like I always say, this is Genius Signatures. Watch out for more interesting tutorials. Thank you all, and God bless you all. See you all on my next tutorial. Ciao. Bye.